March 2024. Margaret Foster, 74 years old, sat in her small Portland apartment struggling with a decision that shouldn't have been difficult. Her furnace had died. Mid-March in Oregon, temperatures still dropping into the 30s at night. She needed heat, but the repair would cost $800. Margaret's monthly income was fixed, $1,427 from Social Security, her only source of money after 35 years teaching elementary school. After rent, $950, utilities, $180, medications, $140, and basic groceries, $200, she had negative $43 remaining each month. She was already behind on several bills. $800 for furnace repair was impossible. She had one option: call her son Tyler. Tyler Foster, 46 years old, lived across town in a Pearl District loft. He was founder and CEO of a tech startup called StreamSync, a video collaboration platform that had raised $12 million in venture funding. Tyler was successful, wealthy by most standards, drove a Tesla Model S, wore expensive sneakers, took international vacations. Margaret called him. The conversation was brief. "Tyler, honey, I hate to ask, but my furnace died. The repair is $800. I don't have it. Could you help?" Tyler sighed. She could hear the irritation. "Mom, again. I just sent you money for your car repair 2 months ago. That was $600. Yes. I'm sorry. I wouldn't ask if." "Fine. I'll Venmo you. But Mom, you really need to budget better. I can't keep bailing you out every time something breaks." "I know. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sending it now. Check your phone." Margaret checked Venmo. $800 from Tyler Foster. Memo: furnace repair. Try to make this last. She felt grateful and humiliated simultaneously. Grateful her son helped. Humiliated that he made her feel like a burden for needing basic necessities he could easily afford. What Margaret didn't know was that Tyler's Venmo account was public. Had been public since he created it years ago, never bothered changing the privacy settings. Every payment Tyler made or received was visible to anyone who looked. Timestamps, amounts, memos, all public. What Margaret didn't know was that her neighbor, 28-year-old Adam Rodriguez, was scrolling through local Venmo transactions one evening, a habit he'd developed, finding it fascinating to see how people spent money. Social media for finances. Adam recognized Tyler's name from Margaret's conversations, clicked on his profile out of curiosity. What Adam found was enraging. Tyler Foster's public Venmo history showed 2 years of payments, and those payments revealed exactly what Tyler valued, what he prioritized, what he spent money on versus what he reluctantly gave his struggling mother. The data was devastating. The contrast was unconscionable. The proof was undeniable. Over 2 years, March 2022 through March 2024, Tyler had sent his mother $3,400 total across 5 payments. June 2022, $600, car repair. November 2022, $400, medical bills. March 2023, $800, plumbing emergency. September 2023, $400, dental work. March 2024, $800, furnace repair. 5 payments in 2 years, $3,400 total. An average of $142 per month to help his mother survive. But Tyler's other Venmo payments told a different story. Restaurants and bars, $47,293 over 2 years. Hundreds of transactions. Nobu, Le Pigeon, Canard, Pok Pok, cocktail bars, wine bars, brewery tabs split with friends. Average restaurant spending, $1,970 per month. Vacation rentals and travel, $28,450. Cabo San Lucas, Tulum, Costa Rica, Palm Springs, Aspen ski trips, Airbnbs, hotels, resort fees. Entertainment and concerts, $12,180. Music festivals, Blazers games, comedy shows, sporting events, theater tickets. Luxury purchases, $8,340. Sneaker drops, designer clothing, tech gadgets, high-end audio equipment, fitness and wellness, $5,670. Boutique gym membership, personal training sessions, yoga retreats, massage therapy. Miscellaneous lifestyle, $4,890. rideshares, cannabis dispensary, subscription boxes, random impulse purchases. Total Tyler spent on himself over 2 years, $106,823. Total Tyler gave his mother $3,400. Tyler had spent $106,823 on restaurants, vacations, entertainment, and luxury goods while giving his struggling mother, who was skipping meals to afford rent, $3,400 for emergencies. That's 3.2% of his lifestyle spending. His mother received 3.2% of what he spent on himself. Adam Rodriguez stared at his phone, scrolling through transaction after transaction. Tyler sending $340 to someone named Brad for epic sushi dinner bro sushi. Tyler paying $280 for Hamilton ticket. Tyler covering a $420 bar tab with the memo, best night ever. Tyler Venmoing $890 for a weekend Airbnb in Bend. And interspersed among these hundreds of luxury transactions, 5 payments to mom, with memos dripping with resentment. Car repair, please be more careful. Medical bills, this is the last time. Furnace, you need to budget better. Adam felt rage. Not just at Tyler, at the system that created Tyler's. Adult children who spent lavishly on themselves while giving parents poverty-level scraps and acting like they were being generous. Adam screenshot everything. Compiled Tyler's public Venmo history into a document. Calculated the totals. Created a comparison chart. $106,823, self, versus $3,400, mother struggling to survive. Then Adam did something that would change Tyler Foster's life forever. He asked Margaret for permission to make it public. Mrs. Foster, I need to show you something about your son. And then I need to ask if I can share it with the world. Because what Tyler's doing to you, it's not just happening to you. It's happening to millions of elderly parents whose adult children have money but won't share it. And Tyler's Venmo account proves it. Proves exactly what he values. Proves he spends 30 times more on restaurants than on his mother's survival. Margaret looked at the data, at the numbers, at the proof that her son could easily help her but chose not to. Chose vacations and sushi and concerts while she went hungry. Share it, she said quietly. Let people see what he really is. Adam posted it on Twitter. A thread titled, "This guy's mother asked him for $3,400 over 2 years for emergencies. He sent it, then spent $106,000 on himself. All public on Venmo. This is what prioritization looks like." The thread included screenshots, calculations, comparisons, Tyler's name visible on every transaction, his own public account betraying him. The post went viral within 6 hours. And Tyler Foster's life, built on venture funding, tech ambition, and performative success, began to collapse under the weight of his own receipts. This is the story of the Venmo receipts, and the son who didn't realize his financial priorities were public record. The Twitter thread exploded. Within 12 hours, it had 2.3 million views, 87,000 retweets, 234,000 likes. The quote tweets were merciless. $47,000 on restaurants while his mom can't afford a furnace? This is sociopathic. The memos are what kill me. Try to make this last, while he drops $890 on a weekend Airbnb. Evil. I just checked my Venmo with my parents. I'm horrified. Checking my priorities immediately. This dude spent $106,000 on himself and gave his struggling mother $3,400. That's not busy. That's cruel. Someone find out what his startup is called. I want to make sure I never use their product. Tyler woke up to his phone exploding with notifications. Hundreds of texts, missed calls, DMs, tags. He opened Twitter and saw his name trending. Not his company. His personal name, Tyler Foster, and below it, Venmo Mom, also trending. He clicked, saw the thread, saw his own Venmo username, saw every transaction from the past 2 years laid out in spreadsheet format, saw the calculations, $106,823 versus $3,400, saw his memos to his mother quoted and mocked, saw millions of people calling him a monster. His first thought wasn't remorse. It was anger. How dare someone screenshot his Venmo? How dare they make his private transactions public? How dare his mother allow this? He called Margaret. She answered on the fifth ring. Mom, did you give someone permission to post my Venmo transactions online? Your neighbor Adam showed me what you've been spending. Showed me that you spend 30 times more on yourself than you give me when I'm struggling. I told him he could share it. That's a violation of my privacy. Your account is public, Tyler. Everything Adam posted is information you made publicly available. You chose to have a public Venmo. You chose those spending patterns. You chose to send me money with condescending memos while spending $100,000 on luxuries. No one violated anything. They just compiled what you were already broadcasting. I'm being dragged on Twitter by millions of people. Are they wrong? The question stopped him. He wanted to say yes. Wanted to argue that he'd helped his mother, that $3,400 was substantial, that he wasn't obligated to fund her entire life. But the numbers didn't allow that defense. $106,823 on himself. $3,400 for his mother's survival. The ratio was indefensible. Mom, I have a business to run. I have responsibilities. I can't just give you unlimited money. I asked you for $800 for heat. You spent $890 on a weekend vacation rental the same month. Don't tell me you can't afford it. Tell me the truth. You don't want to. You'd rather spend money on yourself than help your mother survive. That's not fair. Fair? You know what's not fair? I taught school for 35 years, made barely enough to save anything. Live on $1,400 a month Social Security. And my son, my successful wealthy son, spends almost $2,000 a month on restaurants while I skip meals to afford rent. That's what's not fair. Tyler had no response. Hung up. Sat in his Pearl District loft, $3, $200 monthly rent, surrounded by expensive furniture, designer clothes, tech gadgets. Everything in his apartment represented spending choices, and those choices had been publicly tallied, compared to what he gave his struggling mother. The backlash intensified throughout the day. News outlets picked up the story. Viral Venmo receipts exposed tech CEO's treatment of elderly mother. Business Insider, TechCrunch, The Verge, everyone was covering it. StreamSync, Tyler's company, started getting heat. Investors called emergency meetings. The board wanted to discuss reputation management. Customers were canceling subscriptions, tweeting, not supporting a company run by someone who spends $47,000 on restaurants while his mom goes hungry. Tyler's co-founder, Jessica Park, called him. Tyler, we need to address this. Investors are panicking. We're getting slaughtered on social media. People are associating StreamSync with your personal conduct. It's my private life. It has nothing to do with the company. It's not private anymore. Your Venmo was public. And now everyone knows you're the CEO who values sushi dinners over his mother's survival. That's the brand association. We need damage control. What do you suggest? Honestly, public apology. Commit to supporting your mother properly. Show changed behavior. Maybe step back from public-facing role for a while. Let this blow over. Step back from my own company. The board's going to discuss it tomorrow. I'm warning you. They might not give you a choice. Tyler felt his world crumbling. His company, the thing he'd built over 5 years, raised $12 million for, poured his life into, was being threatened because of Venmo receipts, because his spending patterns had been made public, because someone had done math on his priorities. He looked at his own Venmo app, scrolled through the history, saw what everyone else was seeing, hundreds of transactions for luxury, pleasure, entertainment, status, and 5 transactions for his mother, each with a grudging memo. The visual contrast was devastating. He'd created his own evidence, had documented his own values, had made it public himself by never changing his privacy settings. His phone rang again. His mother. Tyler, I've been thinking. I don't want to destroy you. I didn't realize it would get this big. But I also can't pretend anymore that you've been a good son. The numbers prove you haven't been. You've been comfortable letting me struggle while you lived lavishly. That's the truth. What do you want from me? I want you to acknowledge it, publicly. Not a defensive apology. Real acknowledgement that you prioritized your comfort over my survival. That you spent $100,000 on yourself while giving me $3,400 for emergencies. That those numbers reflect your values. And I want you to commit to change. Actually change, not just say you'll change. If I do that, I might lose my company. Then maybe your priorities have been wrong all along. She hung up. Tyler sat alone in his expensive apartment, scrolling through viral tweets mocking him, reading articles dissecting his spending, watching his professional reputation disintegrate because his Venmo receipts told a truth he couldn't deny. By evening, #Venmo receipts was trending globally. People were checking their own public Venmo accounts, horrified by what their payment histories revealed about their priorities. The movement had become larger than Tyler. He was just the most visible example of a widespread problem. Adult children spending lavishly while giving parents scraps. Venmo, cashless society making it all publicly documented. Financial priorities exposed in timestamp-stamped receipts. Tyler's mother lived on $1,400 a month. Tyler spent $4,450 a month on just restaurants and entertainment. The math was simple. The judgment was inevitable. And Tyler Foster, tech CEO, had no one to blame but himself. He'd made his Venmo public. He'd created the receipts. He'd documented his own moral failure with every $340 sushi dinner and $800 furnace repair sent with resentment. The data didn't lie. Venmo never forgot. And millions of people were now holding Tyler accountable for what his receipts revealed. He valued luxury over his mother's survival. March 25, 2024. 3 days after the Venmo receipts went viral, Tyler Foster's life was in freefall. StreamSync's board held an emergency meeting. Tyler wasn't invited. They were discussing him, not with him. Jessica called him afterward with the verdict. Tyler, the board voted. You're being removed as CEO effective immediately. You'll retain your equity stake, but you're out of operational control. I'm taking over as interim CEO. They can't do that. I founded the company. I'm the largest shareholder. Check your shareholder agreement. There's a clause about conduct detrimental to company reputation. The board unanimously agreed your Venmo situation qualifies. The investors don't want their money associated with someone who's become a symbol of filial neglect. This is insane. My personal finances have nothing to do with. Tyler, we lost 23% of our active users in 3 days. 23%. People are canceling because they don't want to support a company led by you. That directly impacts valuation, future funding, everything. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the company. And right now, you're the threat. Tyler wanted to fight it. Wanted to sue, contest, argue. But his lawyers told him the same thing. The shareholder agreement was clear. Conduct detrimental to reputation was grounds for removal. And his Venmo receipts, his own public records, were undeniable evidence. He'd spent $106,823 on himself while giving his struggling mother $3,400. That wasn't opinion. That was math. And math was holding him accountable. The media coverage intensified. Not just tech publications now. Mainstream outlets. Good Morning America did a segment. The Today Show invited Margaret to talk about elder financial neglect. She declined initially, not wanting more attention. But Adam convinced her. Mrs. Foster, you have a platform now. Millions of people are paying attention. You can help other elderly parents who are being treated this way. You can make this mean something. She agreed. Appeared on Today 2 weeks after the story broke. The interview was gentle but devastating. Margaret spoke quietly, with dignity, about living on $1,400 a month, about choosing between medications and groceries, about calling her son for help with emergencies and hearing sighs, irritation, conditions. When the furnace died, I was terrified to call Tyler. Not because I thought he couldn't afford it, I knew he could, but because I knew how he'd make me feel, like I was a burden, Like I was irresponsible for having old appliances that break. Like I should have saved money somehow on $1,400 a month after rent and bills. The host asked about Tyler's spending. Margaret was careful, trying to be fair even as the numbers condemned him. I didn't know how much he was spending on himself. I knew he had a nice life, but I didn't know the details. When Adam showed me the Venmo data, I was shocked. $47,000 on restaurants in 2 years? That's 33 times what he gave me for actual emergencies. $890 on a single weekend rental while I was asking for $800 for heat. It wasn't that he couldn't help. He chose not to. The interview ended with Margaret's message to other adult children. Check your Venmo. Check your bank statements. Look at what you spend on yourself versus what you give your aging parents who might be struggling. And ask yourself, what do those numbers say about your values? Because my son's numbers said he valued sushi dinners over his mother's survival. What do yours say? The clip went viral. Margaret became an accidental advocate for elderly financial neglect. Organizations fighting elder poverty reached out. Senior advocacy groups wanted her to speak at events. She declined most. She wasn't seeking attention or fame. But she did one more interview with NPR because she wanted to reach a different audience. That interview focused less on Tyler specifically and more on systemic issues. The host asked about Social Security inadequacy, the rising cost of living, why elderly people end up dependent on children who may or may not help. Margaret spoke about teaching for 35 years, never making enough to save substantially. About assuming she'd be okay with Social Security and modest savings. About not anticipating how expensive aging would be. Medications, medical care, home repairs, rising rent. I'm not unique. Millions of elderly people live on fixed incomes that don't cover basic needs. We taught, we worked service jobs, we raised families, we did everything right. And now we're struggling. And our adult children, many of them, are living comfortable or even lavish lives while we go without. It's not illegal, but it should be shameful. The NPR interview reached a different demographic. Older listeners, policymakers, people who cared about systemic issues. The conversation shifted from Tyler-specific outrage to broader question. What do children owe parents? What does society owe elders? How do we handle intergenerational wealth transfer when the older generation has no wealth? Meanwhile, Tyler's personal life was collapsing along with his professional reputation. His girlfriend of 2 years, Melissa, broke up with him via text. I can't be with someone who treats their mother like a financial burden. Your Venmo receipts showed me who you really are. Friends distanced themselves. Not all. Some stuck by him, argued he was being unfairly vilified. But many quietly stopped responding to messages, stopped including him in group plans, avoided association. Tyler's therapist, yes, he had a therapist, another luxury his mother couldn't afford, tried to help him process the situation. Tyler, you're experiencing consequences for choices you made. Those choices are documented. The question isn't whether the consequences are fair. The question is, do you understand why people are reacting this way? Because they think I'm a terrible son. Are they wrong? Same question his mother had asked. Tyler still didn't have an answer. Or rather, he had an answer but didn't want to admit it. No, they weren't wrong. The receipts proved it. He'd valued his comfort over his mother's survival. Had spent lavishly while she struggled. Had treated emergency help to his mother as a burden while treating $340 sushi dinners as routine. The numbers told a story. And the story was that Tyler Foster, successful tech CEO, was exactly what the internet called him. A man who could help but chose not to. Who had money but wouldn't share it with the person who'd raised him. Venmo receipts don't lie. Financial priorities speak louder than words. And Tyler's priorities, documented in hundreds of public transactions, showed exactly what kind of son he was. April 2024. 2 weeks after the viral explosion, Tyler Foster attempted damage control with a public statement. His PR consultant advised a genuine, vulnerable apology, acknowledging the harm he'd caused his mother and committing to do better. Tyler ignored that advice, posted his own statement on Medium. I want to address the recent controversy regarding my Venmo transactions and my mother. First, I want to be clear, The sharing of my private financial information without my consent was a violation, regardless of privacy settings. I never intended my transactions to be compiled and analyzed in this way. That said, I understand why people are upset. The numbers, taken out of context, look bad. But there's context missing. My mother and I have a complicated relationship. I've helped her numerous times over the years, not just the 5 transactions shown. I've offered to help her budget, to find more affordable housing, to apply for additional assistance programs. She's refused my help beyond just sending money. Additionally, my spending on myself is my own business. I work hard. I built a successful company. I'm allowed to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Comparing my personal spending to what I give my mother creates a false equivalence. I don't owe anyone, including my mother, a specific percentage of my income. I love my mother. I've helped her when she's asked, but I'm not responsible for funding her entire lifestyle. She made financial choices throughout her life that led to her current situation. Those were her choices, not mine. I hope we can move past this and focus on the real issue, privacy in the digital age and how easily context can be stripped from data to create misleading narratives. The statement was a catastrophic miscalculation. Instead of quelling outrage, it multiplied it. Twitter erupted. He just blamed his 74-year-old mother living on $1,400 per month for her financial choices. She was a teacher for 35 years. This man is vile. I'm allowed to enjoy the fruits of my labor, while your mother can't afford heat. The sociopathy. He called his mother's survival a lifestyle. She's asking for furnace repairs, not vacations to Cabo. Notice he didn't deny the numbers. $106,000 on himself, $3,400 to his struggling mom. He just thinks he deserves to spend that way while she suffers. That's somehow worse. The PR advice was clearly, apologize sincerely. He wrote, actually it's her fault, instead. Incredible. Margaret read the statement at Adam's apartment. She'd been staying there the past week. Her own apartment felt unsafe with the media attention, people showing up, reporters trying to get statements. She cried reading Tyler's words. Not angry crying, sad crying, grieving crying. Because the statement confirmed what she'd suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. Her son genuinely didn't think he'd done anything wrong. Thought she was to blame for being poor. Thought his luxury spending was justified while she struggled. He said I refused his help with budgeting, Margaret told Adam quietly. You know what his help was. He sent me a link to a budgeting app and told me to track my expenses, as if tracking $1,400 a month would somehow make it enough to live on. As if the problem was my budgeting and not that I can't survive on Social Security. Adam was angry. Mrs. Foster, you don't have to respond to this. You don't owe him anything. I know. But I want to. One time. Then I'm done. Margaret wrote her own statement, posted it on Facebook, where she had 200 friends, mostly fellow retired teachers. Adam helped her format it, screenshot it, share it on Twitter where it would reach the wider audience. Margaret's response. Tyler says our relationship is complicated. It's not complicated. It's simple. I'm his mother. I raised him alone after his father left when Tyler was 5. I worked full-time teaching, never made much money, but gave Tyler everything I could. Paid for his college as much as I could. Supported his dreams. Celebrated his successes. Now I'm 74. Living on $1,427 a month Social Security. I taught for 35 years. That's the pension teachers get in this country. It's not enough. I can't afford rent, utilities, food, and medical care on that amount. I can't. When I ask Tyler for help with emergencies, not luxuries, emergencies like heat or car repairs, I'm not asking for a lifestyle. I'm asking to survive. And yes, I've asked 5 times in 2 years, for a total of $3,400. That's $142 per month on average. Tyler spent $47,000 on restaurants in the same period. He spent $28,000 on vacations. He spent $106,823 on himself while giving me $3,400 to not freeze or starve. He says I refused his help beyond just sending money. The help he offered was a budgeting app. You can't budget your way out of poverty, Tyler. You can't track expenses into having enough money to live. He says I made financial choices that led to my situation. I chose to be a teacher, to educate children, to serve my community. Those choices don't deserve poverty. Teachers don't deserve to struggle in old age while their successful children eat $340 sushi dinners. Tyler says comparing his spending to what he gives me is a false equivalence. It's not. It's math. It's priorities. It shows what he values, his own pleasure over his mother's survival. I love my son, but I don't like who he's become. And his statement, blaming me, defending his luxury spending, claiming privacy violation when his account was public, shows me he hasn't learned anything. The Venmo receipts told the truth about Tyler's priorities, and apparently, when confronted with that truth, his response is, I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I'm done defending him. I'm done making excuses for him. The numbers speak for themselves. Margaret's statement went more viral than Tyler's had. Because it was true. Because it was painful. Because millions of people saw their own elderly parents in Margaret, struggling, too proud to ask for help often, grateful for scraps from successful children who could easily do more. And millions of people saw themselves in Tyler, spending freely on luxuries while telling struggling parents they need to budget better, helping grudgingly when asked while spending multiples on entertainment, thinking they were being generous when they were actually being stingy. The movement became a reckoning. Hashtag Check Your Venmo expanded beyond Venmo to include all spending patterns. People posted their own analyses. I spent $12,000 on concerts and bars this year. Gave my parents $800 total when they asked for help. I'm Tyler. I'm fixing this. Ran my credit card statements. $8,000 on clothes and travel. $0 to my mom who I know is struggling. Just called her. Starting monthly support today. My dad has been asking for help with his medical bills for months. I kept saying, I'm broke. I spent $15,000 on my wedding. I'm not broke. I'm selfish. Paying his bills this week. The Venmo receipts had done more than destroy Tyler Foster. They'd held a mirror up to an entire generation of adult children who'd confused, I helped when asked, with, I helped adequately. Who'd spent lavishly on themselves while parents lived in poverty. Who'd treated elder support as burden instead of obligation. Tyler's PR disaster had accidentally become a moral awakening. And he was patient zero, the most visible, most documented, most undeniable example of what millions were quietly doing. His receipts had exposed him. And in exposing him, had exposed a cultural rot. Children who had money but wouldn't share it with parents who'd sacrificed everything for them. May 2024. Tyler Foster hired an attorney to explore legal options. Could he sue Adam Rodriguez for compiling and sharing his Venmo transactions? Could he claim defamation, invasion of privacy, harassment? His attorney, Robert Kim, reviewed the case and delivered bad news. Tyler, you don't have a case. Your Venmo account was public. That means anyone could see those transactions. Adam didn't hack anything, didn't access private data. He compiled publicly available information. That's legal. But he did it maliciously, to hurt me. His intent doesn't matter if the information was public. It's like if you posted photos on a public Instagram account and someone screenshot them and shared them. You made the information public. You can't then claim privacy violation when someone shares what you publicly posted. What about defamation? He's destroying my reputation. Defamation requires false statement. Adam didn't lie. He compiled your actual Venmo transactions, did math on them, and shared the results. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. If the numbers are accurate, and they are, because they're your own transactions, there's no defamation. So I have no legal recourse. None that would succeed. You could file a nuisance lawsuit, drag it out, try to make Adam's life difficult. But you'd lose eventually. And the publicity would make things worse for you. My advice, accept the consequences and try to rebuild your reputation through changed behavior, not litigation. Tyler didn't want to accept consequences. He wanted vindication. wanted to be proven right, to have someone punished for his suffering. But the law didn't care about his feelings, only about whether Adam had done anything illegal. And he hadn't. Meanwhile, StreamSync's interim CEO Jessica Park was cleaning up the mess Tyler had created. She rebranded the company's image, emphasized the team over the founder, distanced the product from Tyler's personal conduct. In an interview with TechCrunch, Jessica addressed the situation carefully. StreamSync is a product built by a talented team of engineers, designers, and business professionals. While Tyler founded the company, its success reflects collective effort. Recent events regarding Tyler's personal conduct don't reflect the values of our team or organization. We're committed to supporting our employees, serving our customers, and building technology that brings people together, literally and figuratively. The subtext was clear. Tyler was out. StreamSync was moving on without him. His equity stake remained, but he had no control, no voice, no role. He was a silent investor in a company he'd founded, watching others run it. The board offered him a buyout, $2.3 million for his equity stake, less than it was worth before the scandal, but more than it might be worth if the company continued bleeding users. Tyler's lawyers advised him to take it, salvage what he could before the value dropped further. Tyler countered, $4 million. The board refused. Final offer, $2.5 million. Take it or leave it. Tyler had 7 days to decide. He looked at his finances. His expensive lifestyle had left him with minimal savings despite years of good income. The $12 million raised had gone to the company, not to him personally. His salary as CEO had been $180,000. Good money, but he'd been spending at a higher rate, $4,450 per month on restaurants and entertainment alone. His Pearl District loft was $3,200 monthly. His Tesla payment was $1,100. His lifestyle burn rate was approximately $9,000 per month. Without CEO salary, without company control, Tyler was facing financial reality. He needed the buyout money, had no choice but to accept. He took the $2.5 million. After taxes, legal fees, and paying off debts he'd accumulated, he netted approximately $1.4 million. Enough to live on if he drastically changed his spending habits. Not enough to maintain his previous lifestyle indefinitely. Tyler moved out of the Pearl District loft. Couldn't afford $3,200 monthly rent without income. Moved to a studio apartment in outer southeast Portland. $1,100 monthly. Sold his Tesla. Couldn't afford the payment, the insurance, the image it projected. Bought a used Honda Civic for $8,000 cash. His life contracted dramatically. Suddenly, the luxury spending that had been routine became impossible. The restaurants he'd frequented without thought became prohibitively expensive. The vacations, the concerts, the lifestyle, all gone. Tyler was experiencing what his mother had lived for years: financial constraint, having to budget, having to say no to things he wanted, having to prioritize necessities over pleasures. The irony wasn't lost on anyone who followed the story. The man who'd spent $106,823 on luxury over 2 years while giving his mother $3,400 for survival was now living on a fixed budget, having to make the same kinds of choices he dismissed as poor budgeting when his mother faced them. A particularly viral tweet captured it. Tyler Foster went from spending $1,970 per month on restaurants to probably eating ramen. Meanwhile, his mom is still living on $1,427 per month total. Except now she has $2.5 million reasons to never speak to him again. But Margaret hadn't taken any of Tyler's buyout money, hadn't asked for it, wouldn't accept it if offered. She'd moved beyond needing Tyler's financial help. The viral attention had brought unexpected support. A GoFundMe created by Adam Rodriguez, Help Margaret Foster, the Venmo receipt's mom, had raised $340,000 from people outraged by Tyler's treatment of her. Teachers' unions had donated. Senior advocacy organizations had contributed. Individual donors gave $5, $20, $100, wanting to help the elderly mother whose son had spent lavishly while she suffered. Margaret was overwhelmed by the generosity. For the first time in decades, she wasn't struggling. wasn't behind on bills, wasn't terrified of every appliance breaking. The viral humiliation of her son's receipts had accidentally provided her with financial security he'd refused to give her. She moved to a better apartment, $1,400 monthly, still affordable, but nicer, safer, with working appliances. She paid off medical debts, bought herself glasses she'd needed for years but couldn't afford, donated $50,000 to organizations supporting elderly poverty, and she cut off contact with Tyler, blocked his number, refused his attempts to visit, sent one final message through Adam. I don't want your apologies or your buyout money. I wanted your love and support when I needed it. You gave me scraps and resentment while spending $100,000 on yourself. The money doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you showed me who you are. And I don't need people like that in my life, even if they're my son. Especially if they're my son. Tyler received the message and felt something he hadn't felt through all the public backlash: genuine grief. Not grief over reputation or career or money. Grief over realizing he'd lost his mother. Not to death, to his own choices, to priorities documented in Venmo receipts that proved he'd valued sushi dinners over her survival. He'd spent $106,823 on luxury. And it had cost him everything. September 2024. 6 months after the Venmo receipts went viral. The movement they'd sparked had fundamentally changed how people thought about financial obligations to elderly parents. Venmo accountability became a recognized concept. Financial therapists incorporated spending pattern analysis into sessions with adult children whose parents were struggling. Show me your Venmo and your bank statement. Let's see what you actually prioritize. Apps were created specifically for this purpose. Priority Check analyzed your spending across categories and compared it to what you gave family members who needed support. Family First gamified elder support. Track your monthly contributions to struggling parents. Compete with yourself to increase the percentage. Get badges for consistency. The movement went beyond technology. Cultural conversations shifted. Opinion pieces ran in major publications. Your parents sacrificed everything for you. What do you owe them now? The Atlantic. The Venmo generation. Why adult children can afford luxuries but not elder care. New York Times. I checked my receipts. I'm Tyler Foster. Here's what I'm doing about it. Medium. Viral confessional essays. Religious organizations incorporated the message into sermons. Rabbis, priests, imams discussed honoring parents not just emotionally but financially. If you can afford $300 dinners, you can afford to help your mother pay her medical bills. Universities added financial ethics courses. Business schools taught case studies. The Tyler Foster Venmo receipts, when public data exposes private values. What did students learn? That you can't separate personal ethics from professional leadership. That your spending patterns reveal your character. That receipts don't lie. Legislative attention followed. Several states proposed elder financial support laws. If your parents were below poverty line and you earned above a certain threshold, you could be legally required to contribute. The bills were controversial, faced opposition, mostly didn't pass. But the conversation itself was significant. Society was questioning whether adult children had only moral obligations or actual legal ones. For Tyler, these 6 months had been purgatory. He lived alone in his studio apartment, worked a remote contract job for a startup that hadn't heard of him. He used his middle name on applications, avoided social situations, existed in isolation. His $1.4 million nest egg was slowly depleting despite his efforts to live frugally. Therapy twice a week, $200 per session. Basic living expenses, $2,500 monthly. Nothing extravagant, but it added up. At this rate, the money would last maybe 8 years. Then what? Tyler had no career prospects in tech. His name was permanently associated with the scandal. Google Tyler Foster, and the first 100 results were about Venmo receipts. Neglected mother, CEO ousted for elder abuse. No startup would hire him. No company would risk the association. He considered changing his name legally. Marcus Tyler instead of Tyler Foster, starting over somewhere else. But what was the point? The internet never forgets. Someone would eventually connect him to the scandal. He'd be exposed again. Tyler's isolation was deepening into depression. He saw a psychiatrist who prescribed medication. It helped the worst of it, made getting out of bed possible, but couldn't fix the fundamental reality. He destroyed his life through choices documented in Venmo receipts. September 15th, Tyler's 47th birthday. He spent it alone. No calls from friends, they'd all distanced themselves. No call from his mother, she'd blocked him. No girlfriend, Melissa had moved on, was dating someone else according to social media. Tyler opened Venmo out of habit, saw the app that had destroyed him, scrolled through old transactions, saw the pattern that everyone else had seen. Luxury, 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 grudging $800 to mom with condescending memo, more luxury. He calculated something he'd been avoiding. Total Venmo spending, lifetime, all categories, $342,847 since he created the account in 2017. 7 years of transaction, $342,847 spent. Amount given to his mother in same period, $3,400. 1%. He'd given his struggling mother 1% of his Venmo spending over 7 years. The number broke something in Tyler. Not his pride, that had broken months ago. Something deeper. His fundamental understanding of himself. He thought he was a good person who worked hard and deserved nice things. But the math said he was a person who'd valued luxuries 99% more than his mother's survival. That wasn't a good person. That was exactly what the internet had called him. Selfish, cruel, sociopathic. Tyler drafted a message to his mother. Not through Adam this time. Direct. He wrote her physical address on an envelope, bought a stamp, mailed a letter. Old-fashioned communication that couldn't be blocked. The letter. Mom, I know you don't want to hear from me. I understand why. But I need to say this, even if you never respond. I calculated my total Venmo spending since 2017. $342,847. I gave you $3,400 in that same period. 1%. I gave my own mother, who raised me alone, who sacrificed everything for me, 1% of what I spent on myself. Everyone was right about me. You were right. The internet was right. I was wrong. Completely, fundamentally wrong. I thought I'd helped you adequately. I thought 5 payments totaling $3,400 was generous. I thought you needed to budget better. I thought my spending on myself was justified because I'd worked hard. I was lying to myself. The receipts proved it. I could have helped you so much more. Could have sent you $500 monthly without even noticing it in my budget. Could have made sure you never worried about rent, heat, food, medical care. Could have given you security instead of scraps. I didn't because I valued my comfort over your survival. I prioritized $340 sushi dinners over your ability to afford prescription medications. I chose luxury over making sure my mother who raised me, loved me, supported me, didn't have to choose between food and heat. I'm not writing this to be forgiven. I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm writing because I finally understand what I did. Not just the math of it, though the math is damning, but the moral weight of it. I let you struggle while I lived lavishly. I acted like you were a burden when you asked for help. I spent $100,000 on pleasure while you lived in poverty. And when confronted with proof of this, I blamed you. I'm sorry. Inadequately, too late, but genuinely sorry. I don't expect a response. I don't expect relationship repair. I've lost you, and I deserve to lose you. But I needed you to know, I finally see what I did. And I'm horrified by it. By me. I'm sorry, Mom. For everything. For all of it. Tyler. He mailed the letter. Didn't expect response. Didn't get one. Margaret read it, acknowledged to Adam that she'd received it, but said nothing more. Some damage can't be apologized away. Some relationships can't be rebuilt. Sometimes receipts tell a truth that destroys everything, and the destruction is permanent. Tyler's Venmo receipts had told that truth, and the truth was, he'd been a terrible son. The numbers proved it, and numbers don't forgive. January 2025. 10 months after the viral explosion, Margaret Foster, now 75, was creating a will with attorney Helen Martinez. The GoFundMe money had given her an estate worth planning, $340,000 raised online, plus her modest savings, totaling approximately $360,000. Not a fortune, but more than she'd ever had. More than she'd dreamed of having after decades of teacher poverty. And she wanted to be intentional about where it went. Helen asked the obvious question, what about Tyler, your son? Do you want to leave him anything? Margaret thought for a long moment. Yes, but not money. Something else. She explained what she wanted. Helen was surprised, then impressed. It was poetic, cruel perhaps, but honest. And Margaret had earned the right to honesty. The will was drafted. Estate of Margaret Foster. Distribution. To Adam Rodriguez, $200,000 in recognition of his advocacy, friendship, and genuine care over the past years. Adam has been more family to me than my biological son. He earned this through presence, not genetics. To Teachers Retirement Fund, $80,000 to support retired educators facing poverty. May this help others who gave their careers to education and received inadequate compensation. To National Council on Aging, $50,000 for elder financial assistance programs. To remaining friends and community members who supported me, $15,000 distributed among named individuals. To Tyler Foster, my son, I leave my complete Venmo transaction history with him, printed and bound. Every payment request I made, every payment he sent, every condescending memo, every comparison to what he spent on himself in the same periods. This is your inheritance, Tyler. The mathematical proof of how you valued luxury over my survival. May you live with these receipts the way I lived with the poverty they represent. Additionally, to Tyler Foster, I leave $1, not out of spite, but to ensure this will cannot be contested on grounds of accidental omission. You are intentionally receiving minimal inheritance because you gave me minimal support. The receipts prove it. Final statement to Tyler. You had money. You spent $342,847 on yourself over 7 years while giving me $3,400 for emergency. You could have helped me live with dignity. You chose not to. You chose luxury over my survival. The Venmo receipts exposed you. But more than that, they exposed a truth you refuse to see. Love isn't measured by feelings. It's measured by actions, by priorities, by what you actually do when someone needs help. You failed that measurement spectacularly, publicly, and the public receipts of your failure are now your inheritance. I hope every time you look at them, you remember, you had the chance to be a good son. You chose to be a wealthy one instead. And in the end, the wealth didn't save you from the consequences of being a bad son. I forgave you emotionally years ago, but I don't forgive you enough to pretend you deserve an inheritance. Inheritance implies you contributed something valuable. You contributed scraps and resentment. That's what you get in return. The will was signed, notarized, filed. Margaret felt peace about it. She'd said what needed saying, had distributed her estate to people who'd earned it through actual care, not biological obligation. She showed the will to Adam. He was uncomfortable with the $200,000. Mrs. Foster, I didn't help you for money. I did it because it was right. Because Tyler was treating you terribly and someone needed to speak up. I know. That's exactly why you're getting it. Because you didn't do it for reward. You did it because you cared. That's worth recognizing. Margaret lived simply despite her newfound financial security. The poverty mindset from years of struggle didn't disappear overnight. She still clipped coupons, still bought generic brands, still turned off lights religiously to save electricity. But she also allowed herself small pleasures, better coffee, regular taxi rides when walking was difficult, gifts for the friends who'd supported her. She volunteered at senior centers, talked to other elderly people struggling financially, shared her story as encouragement. If your adult children are treating you like a burden, it's not your fault. You're not asking for too much. They're giving too little. My son spent $100,000 on himself while I lived on $1,400 a month. The world saw those receipts and judged him. You're not crazy for feeling neglected. You probably are being neglected. These conversations, these connections, they gave Margaret's final years meaning beyond the scandal. She was helping others recognize and name what they were experiencing. Financial neglect, elder poverty, children who could help but wouldn't. One conversation particularly struck her. An 80-year-old woman named Dorothy, living on $1,200 monthly Social Security, whose daughter was a dermatologist earning $400,000 annually. The daughter sent Dorothy $100 monthly, $200 yearly, while driving a BMW and taking European vacation. She tells me I should have saved more during my working years, Dorothy said quietly. I was a secretary. I made maybe $30,000 a year at my peak. How do you save for retirement on that while raising 3 kids? She acts like my poverty is my failure. Margaret knew that feeling intimately, recognized Tyler's deflection in Dorothy's daughter's blame. It's not your failure. It's hers. She has money and won't share it with the person who raised her. That's a character failure, not a budgeting failure. The Venmo receipts movement had given these conversations language, permission to say, my child is treating me poorly, to quantify it, to compare spending patterns to support patterns, to use math as evidence of neglect. Margaret's story had become larger than Tyler, larger than herself. It represented millions of elderly people whose adult children prioritized luxury over elder support, who were told to budget better while their children spent freely, who lived in poverty while children lived in comfort. February 2025. Margaret's 75th birthday. Adam organized a small party at her apartment. 20 people attended, fellow retired teachers, neighbors, friends from senior center, people who'd become family over the past year. Tyler wasn't invited, didn't know about it. Margaret had blocked him completely. He existed to her only as a legal obligation in her will, someone who had to be explicitly addressed to prevent contest. During the party, someone asked Margaret, do you think Tyler will ever understand what he did? He understands intellectually. His letter showed that. He can do the math, see the receipts, acknowledge the failure. But understanding intellectually isn't the same as feeling it. He destroyed our relationship over money he could easily afford to share. That kind of selfishness doesn't change just because you get caught. It changes only if you experience what you put others through. And Tyler's experiencing a fraction of it. He still has over $1 million. I lived on $1,400 monthly for years. We're not comparable. Do you hate him? No. I'm disappointed, sad, wish things were different. But hate requires more energy than I have. He's just gone from my life. The son I raised doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. Maybe I saw what I wanted to see instead of what the receipts revealed. Someone who valued his own comfort infinitely more than my survival. The party continued. There was cake, laughter, stories. Margaret was surrounded by people who cared about her genuinely, who'd shown up for her, who'd proved through actions that she mattered. Tyler wasn't there, would never be there again, had removed himself from her life through choices documented in Venmo receipts that told a story he couldn't deny. Some people lose their parents to death. Margaret had lost her son to math, to undeniable evidence of his values, to receipts that proved what she'd suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. She'd never been his priority. The Venmo data had freed her to see truth, and truth, however painful, was better than continuing to love someone who loved luxury more than her. November 2025. 19 months after the receipts went viral, Tyler Foster, now 47, was experiencing financial reality in ways he'd never imagined during his tech CEO days. His $1.4 million nest egg had dwindled to $780,000. He'd underestimated expenses, hadn't fully adjusted his lifestyle, burned through money faster than planned. Therapy, medication, basic living, occasional slip-ups where he'd spend money on things from his old life. It all added up. His therapist suggested he needed purpose beyond just existing in isolation. Tyler, you've been in survival mode for over a year. That's not sustainable. You need something meaningful. Work, volunteer, anything that gives you structure and connection. No one will hire me. My name is Poison in Tech. Then do something outside tech. Something that doesn't require your name to be front and center. Something manual, simple, where you can contribute without your past defining you. Tyler started volunteering at a senior center in Southeast Portland. Used his middle name, Marcus, on the application. Didn't mention his background. Just said he had time available and wanted to help. The irony of Tyler Foster volunteering at a senior center helping elderly people after neglecting his own mother was not lost on him. But that was partly why he did it. Penance. Attempting to balance cosmic scales through service he'd failed to provide his own parent. He helped with basic tasks, setting up chairs for events, serving meals, assisting with technology problems, reading to residents with vision issues, playing chess, providing companionship. One resident, Frank, 83 years old, became something like a friend. Frank had been a carpenter, lived on minimal social security, rarely saw his adult daughter who lived in Seattle. They'd talk during chess games. "Your daughter visits much?" Tyler asked one afternoon. "Once a year, maybe. Christmas, if I'm lucky. She's busy, got her own life." "I understand. Does she help you financially?" "I don't ask. Don't want to be a burden." Tyler felt the familiar pattern. Frank making excuses for his daughter, accepting neglect as normal, not wanting to seem demanding by expecting adequate support. "Frank, if your daughter has money and you're struggling, it's okay to ask for help. You raised her. She owes you at least consideration." "You sound like you've thought about this." "I have. Personal experience. From the other side. I was the adult child who didn't help enough, who spent money on myself while my mother struggled. I regret it every day." Frank was quiet for several moves. Then, "Why didn't you help her? If you had money." "Because I was selfish. Because I valued my comfort over her survival. Because I told myself she needed to budget better instead of acknowledging that Social Security isn't enough to live on. Because it was easier to send her $800 once in a while than to actually examine why she kept needing help." "What changed?" "I got exposed. My spending patterns became public. Everyone saw what I'd spent on myself versus what I gave her. It destroyed my reputation, my career, my relationship with her. I lost everything because I chose to spend on luxury instead of ensuring my mother's security." Frank studied him. "You're Tyler Foster, the Venmo guy." Tyler's stomach dropped. "You know. Everyone here knows. We talk about you. About your story. About our own kids who do similar things. You're famous here. Not in a good way. I should quit volunteering." "I didn't mean to." "Don't quit. You're doing good work here. Better late than never, right? You can't fix what you did to your mother, but maybe you can help other people's kids not make the same mistakes." Tyler stayed, but the recognition was difficult. Other residents slowly revealed they knew who he was. Some were cold to him. Some were understanding. Most were just sad, seeing Tyler as a cautionary tale made flesh. A person who'd learned too late what mattered. One woman, Patricia, 79, asked him, "Do you think about your mother?" "Every day." "Have you tried to contact her?" "I wrote her once. She didn't respond. I'm blocked on everything else." "Good." "Excuse me." "Good that she blocked you. You don't deserve access to her. You spent $100,000 on yourself while she struggled. You don't get to clear your conscience by apologizing. You get to live with what you did." Patricia's bluntness was harsh but honest. Tyler was using volunteering partially for redemption, trying to feel better about himself. But feeling better wasn't justice. His mother was still dealing with the poverty he'd ignored. He was still sitting on $780,000 while she'd lived on $1,400 monthly for years. Tyler made a decision, created a spreadsheet, fitting, given how spreadsheets had destroyed him. Calculated what he should have been giving his mother all along. Based on his historical income and spending, he calculated he could have comfortably sent her $1,000 monthly without impacting his lifestyle. Over the 7 years since 2017, $84,000 total. He'd given her $3,400. He owed her $80,600 in what he should have provided. Tyler sent a cashier's check for $80,600 to his mother's address. No note, no expectation of response or forgiveness, just the money he should have given all along. The check was returned. Recipient refused delivery. Tyler tried to deposit the money in an account in her name. The bank required her consent. She wouldn't provide it. He attempted to donate it in her name to elder poverty organizations. They refused, didn't want money from Tyler Foster, the poster child of elder neglect. He was sitting on money he wanted to give his mother, and she wouldn't accept it. Because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what the receipts had revealed. He could have helped all along, had chosen not to. And no amount of retroactive payment could undo that choice. Tyler finally donated the $80,600 to senior centers anonymously. Didn't use his name, didn't take tax deduction, just sent cashier's checks with no return address. It didn't make him feel redeemed. It made him feel hollow. Because he was trying to buy absolution. And absolution, he was learning, wasn't for sale. Not for $80,600. Not for any amount. The Venmo receipts had documented his failure, and that documentation was permanent, public, undeniable. He would be Tyler Foster, Venmo receipts guy, for the rest of his life. Frank told him during chess one day, "You know what your real punishment is? Public humiliation? Lost career. No. Your punishment is understanding what you did and not being able to fix it. That's worse than not understanding at all. You get to spend the rest of your life knowing exactly how badly you failed your mother and knowing she'll never forgive you. That's hell." Frank was right. Tyler's hell wasn't the viral tweets or lost company or damaged reputation. It was living with full knowledge of his failure and zero ability to repair it. The receipts had told the truth, and truth, once revealed, couldn't be taken back, only lived with, forever. March 2027. 3 years after the Venmo receipts went viral, Margaret Foster died peacefully in her sleep at home. She was 77 years old. Heart failure, sudden, no prolonged suffering. Adam Rodriguez found her the next morning. He checked on her daily, had a key, had been family to her in ways Tyler never was. Adam called the authorities, made arrangements, notified Margaret's friends and community. He didn't notify Tyler. Tyler was blocked on Margaret's phone. Adam had no contact information for him. And frankly, Adam didn't think Tyler deserved to know immediately. He'd given up that right years ago. Tyler learned about his mother's death 3 days later, from Twitter. Someone had posted, "Margaret Foster, the Venmo receipts mom, passed away. Rest in peace to a woman who exposed what so many elderly parents experience, financial neglect from children who can afford to help but won't." The tweet had 45,000 likes, hundreds of comments. She deserved better than Tyler Foster. Hope she died knowing she helped millions of people understand this issue. R.I.P. to a teacher who taught her final lesson, receipts don't lie. Tyler saw the post and felt his world collapse again. Not because he'd lost access to his mother, he'd lost that years ago, but because she'd died, and he hadn't known, and the internet had informed him of his own mother's death because he'd been so thoroughly cut from her life. He tried calling Adam, blocked. He tried showing up at Margaret's apartment. Building security stopped him. Mr. Rodriguez left instructions. Tyler Foster is not allowed on the property. Tyler attended the funeral despite knowing he wasn't welcome. Stood in the back of the church. 200 people attended. Retired teachers, neighbors, senior center friends, advocates who'd been inspired by her story, journalists who'd covered it. Adam gave the eulogy, spoke about Margaret's kindness, her resilience, her accidental activism, mentioned Tyler obliquely. Margaret experienced what millions of elderly parents experience, being treated as a burden by successful children who could easily help but choose not to. Her story went viral because it resonated, because Tyler Foster's Venmo receipts showed what many families hide. Adult children spending lavishly while parents struggle. People in the church turned to look at Tyler in the back row. He felt their judgment, deserved it, sat through it. After the service, Tyler tried to approach Adam. Adam refused to speak to him. "You don't get closure, Tyler. You don't get a moment of reconciliation or forgiveness. You get to live with what you did. That's your consequence. Leave. Tyler left. The will reading was held a week later. Tyler wasn't invited but learned the details through the attorney who drafted it. Helen Martinez sent him a copy with Margaret's explicit instructions. Make sure Tyler knows what he's inheriting. Tyler read the will, saw that Adam received $200,000, saw the charitable donations, saw that he was receiving complete Venmo transaction history, printed and bound, plus $1. The package arrived 2 days later. A heavy box. Inside, a leather-bound book, 340 pages. Every Venmo transaction between Tyler and Margaret, printed in chronological order. Every $800 payment for emergencies. Every condescending memo. And interspersed throughout, screenshots of Tyler's other transactions from the same periods. $340 sushi dinner next to $400 payment to Mom, with memo medical bills. This is the last time. The juxtaposition was devastating. Page after page showing Tyler's priorities. $890 weekend rental. $600 to Mom for car repair. $420 bar tab. $800 to Mom for furnace. The pattern repeated hundreds of times. The final page was Margaret's statement from the will. Tyler read it through tears. You chose luxury over my survival. The receipts proved it. This book is your inheritance because it's the only thing you contributed to our relationship. Evidence of your failure. Tyler kept the book, put it on a shelf in his apartment where he'd see it every day. A permanent reminder of what he'd done, of who he'd been, of the mother he'd lost through choices documented in payment app transactions. By 2027, Tyler's $1.4 million had dwindled to $420,000. He was 49 years old, had no career, no reputation, no family, no relationship with his mother even in death, had money but nothing meaningful to spend it on, lived alone in his studio apartment, volunteered at the senior center, existed but didn't really live. The Venmo receipts had destroyed him 3 years ago, and he was still destroyed, would be destroyed forever. Because the receipts were permanent, the internet never forgot. Google Tyler Foster, and the story was always there. He thought sometimes about starting over. New name, new city, new life. But what was the point? He'd still be himself. Still be the person who'd valued $340 sushi dinners over his mother's survival. Changing names didn't change character. The Venmo receipts movement had outlived the initial viral moment. By 2027, it was institutionalized. Elder financial support courses were mandatory in many high schools. College ethics classes used Tyler's case as primary example. Financial advisors asked clients, have you checked your spending against what you're giving struggling family members? Tyler had become a verb. Don't Tyler foster your parents, meaning, don't spend lavishly on yourself while elderly parents struggle. The phrase was used casually, widely, permanently. His mother's final gift to him was truth. Undeniable, documented, permanent truth about who he'd been. The Venmo receipts had revealed him, and revelation had destroyed him. But revelation had also saved millions of others. Adult children who'd seen Tyler's receipts and checked their own, who'd realized they were doing similar things, who'd changed before it was too late, who'd increased support to parents, adjusted spending priorities, ensured their parents' final years weren't spent in poverty while children lived in luxury. Margaret Foster had died at 77, but her legacy, forcing adult children to confront their own receipts, to examine what their spending revealed about their values, would outlive her by generations. Tyler Foster had spent $342,847 on himself over 7 years, while giving his mother $3,400 for emergencies. Those numbers would never be forgotten, would be cited in articles, taught in classes, used as cautionary tale forever. The Venmo receipts had told the truth, and truth, once documented, never dies. Tyler's mother was gone, but the receipts remained. Permanent proof of his failure. Permanent reminder of what mattered. He'd spent everything on luxury, and lost everything that mattered. The receipts don't lie. They never had. They never would.